Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert Podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right. Welcome back to the Dirt and Vert Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a gentleman with us, Alec Cline, today, our special guest, who just come off 2 races in March. Alec doesn't like to hold back anything, but he just ran GDR, and he was 3rd place overall at Georgia Death Race with a really, really fast time. Mm-hmm. But probably his best performance so far for the year, I would have to say, goes to Lucky 50, because he currently has the top 50-mile time in the U.S. right now, a little over 5.5 hours, so a 6:40 pace, and that's amazing. Can't wait to hear the story more on that race, because it sounds like everything probably clicked for you and went really well. But very first, for all of our listeners, tell us a little about who you are and how you got into running.
Well, as you said, I'm Alec. I got into running when I was 21. Growing up, I was somewhat active, but it really was just a video gamer. And during the summer vacations from school, I'd be coming down to Ohio from Michigan, and I'd be on the hay farm and just working physical on the farm. But then when I got out of school, I joined the Marine Corps, a lot more physical. And I, had to do the exercises, whatever we did in the Marine Corps, had to run, yada, yada. But when I got out, it was 2 days after I got out, I moved in with my cousin Corey, and for some reason, we just had the grand idea that, hey, you want to go for a run? And I always did not enjoy running. I mean, I think a lot of people say that. I mean, I really didn't. And we had a yearly test in the Marine Corps called the physical fitness test. And one of the 3 events was a 3-mile run. And I just remember having the worst butterflies the night before, just thinking about this dang 3-mile. Just not something I enjoyed doing. So when I got out, we decided to go on a run together. We went on 4.5 miles, and we were tanked. Like, we got back just laying on the garage floor, middle of July, just screwed, But something clicked with me and my cousin. We just started running like 5 days a week and holding our phones. He had the Nike app. I had the, I don't even remember what it was called. I don't remember the other app I had, but we ran with our phones. We just started writing it on paper, just like, hey, let's try this mileage. Never did pace, nothing. And we got all the way up to a 22-mile run after 2.5 months, never carried water, food, zero. I mean, we were just stupid, Then it kind of like broke, He broke off in the middle of the trail. I got really broke off. We had no water, nothing. It was like September at this point, still in the 80s and 90s. He fell off for the winter. I started really teetering off. I only ever ran with him. So then come the next year, I wanted to keep running. Then we started running together again, and we just kind of kept with it. Maybe 6-7 months out of the year, we hated the winter. The winter sucks. I'm not a cold runner. But we really stuck to road races for the first, 2 years. What I'm getting at, though, is it just was always something in my mind that I just really, really enjoyed doing. And I don't know why I did. It was just something so fun. I'd never been in a sport other than marching band. I was a lifelong trumpet player. That's what I did in the Marine Corps. Something about running kept having us come back. And then, I don't know how far you want me to go with this introduction, but by 2020, I ran my first marathon in October, which was the Marine Corps Marathon in DC. And then that was 2019. And then by October 2020, I ran my first trail race. And getting into trail races was something totally different. And I realized that was my guilty pleasure. It was just the love of running. That was the last piece in the puzzle of, oh, this is awesome. And that was kind of forwarded by my Uncle Kevin. He just texted me one day, and he's like, hey, there's this trail in Mohican. You want to go run it sometime? And I was like, yeah, let's go down. And he's a runner himself. He just signs up for tons of races, just does them. He never did any ultras, nothing like that. He's just an outdoorsman. And we go down there one day, and We just get out of our cars, we have our packs, and we do that 25-mile loop, the mountain bike loop, and we were broke the hell off. I mean, we ended up like walking the last 5 or 6 miles, got back to our cars. We were just destroyed. And this was early 2020, and something just stuck with me. And I was like, man, that just was so much fun. I ended up going down by myself 2 more times because he was working or whatever. And the last time I went down was like summer of 2020. I did the loop, didn't have any water, nothing, just stupid, you know. And I get back to my car and I'm just beat up, and I'm about to get in my car, and this woman was getting out of her car, and she's like, hey, do you know where the short loop is? And I was like, listen, I only know this big loop. And she's like, really? And she's like, how fast did you do it? And I was like, I did it in like 4.5 hours. And she's like, oh my gosh, like you should do the Mohican 50. And I'm thinking 50 miles. Oh my gosh, there's no way. And I thought about it like a lot for the next couple nights. And I don't really remember the exact timeline, but I ended up signing up. And this is when they had moved it because of COVID. It was at the end of October. And I ended up doing it. I met a friend on Facebook that had a similar goal, first 50, and we ran it, and it was awesome. And that was our first trail race, our first ultra. Well, I did a 50K on a treadmill back in 2019. That was a lot. That was for like a fundraiser event. But my first like real ultra was at Mohican 50, and it just set me up from there. I started seeking. I never have felt like there is a limit. You know, I just feel like if you hit a limit, it's just, did you have enough training, or I don't know. I mean, and then I just realized, wow, trail running lets you just keep doing more and more and more crazy and stupid things.
And they just keep getting longer.
They do longer, or like more challenging, or just crazy little tasks you have to do with them, or just like silly stuff, like the Georgia Death Race. You got to carry a spike, and that's like the fun stuff in trail running that road runners would probably cringe, you know, like, why the heck are you doing that? It's dumb, you know. And I love road running. It's its own specialty, and I really feel that it's also a beautiful side of running, and I think both sides are great. So that's my long introduction.
Oh, that wasn't that long. That was really good. So you did your very first marathon was the Marine Corps marathon?
Yeah. Yep. Back in October of 2019.
How did that go?
That was rough, only because, so I think my training was pretty good. I didn't follow any plan whatsoever. I only knew just like volume. We had this 4-mile loop around our house, and I would always just hit it multiple times. My cousin would put out waters for me and stuff, or chocolate milk. We love Nesquik. Well, we would, I did a 27-mile run before that, and I felt pretty ready. And then when I did the marathon, classic me, I don't read instructions. I just don't very well. And I like data a lot. I just don't. What's that?
I'm the same.
Yeah, and I should have just read on it more. And I didn't really understand how the corrals worked. I kind of just skimmed through stuff, and I got there race morning, and it was a shuttle to the start. And there's 30,000 people at that race, and it's massive. And it was pouring down rain. We're all in this like big tent area, and there's like 1,000 porta potties, and I'm waiting in line with them. And the race time started, and I was supposed to be, I estimated probably like 3:30 to 4-hour group. Well, by the time I got to the porta potties and I go up to where the race is starting, I found myself in like the 6-hour group, and it was insane because I zigzagged for about 20 miles. And by the time I finished, I had 29.5 miles on my phone. So my time was like a 4:09, but my time on my phone for the marathon split was like a 3:39. So it was silly. I mean, it made it for a fun experience. And actually, it poured down rain so much that people were getting down in the streets of DC and acting like they were swimming in the water because it was just flooding down the streets. And I just got out of the Marine Corps in 2018. So the brass band, the Marine Corps brass band that I was in the previous year was still playing at the end of the race. So I got to go visit them and stuff. And I actually stayed in the same hotel as one of my buddies. So that was a really fun experience too. So it went really well. And I'm actually kind of glad it turned out that way because bad experiences come out for great memories.
And it's, that's the best learning curve sometimes too, to find out what you need to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even know what my nutrition was, but I ate the those jelly bean things, the sport beans. That's what they
Okay.
are.
Those
Yeah.
were big back in the day. Hey,
They
they still
really were.
I
What's that?
like them. It tastes good.
I haven't had them in a long time. I just ate a ton of them that day. I remember that.
So, so transitioning from that marathon into your first 50 miler, what was that experience like?
I don't even remember what I did to train for it. I just don't. And I just, I just did a bunch of runs. I mean, it is the most reckless thing possible. I have never followed a plan. I just think that my enjoyment superseded any plan. And that sounds like weird, but I just had so much fun with it and I didn't think too hard into it. And I guess it resulted in my mind that I couldn't do something. I just figured, I don't know if I could. I'll just try it. And I really don't remember that year what the training was like. Cause I think that was my only race in 2020. And I just ended up getting into it and we did it in like 10 hours and 10 minutes or something. And we were crushed. And it was funny because it started in waves because it was COVID. So every minute they released 4 people. And the guy I met online, he's like 2 years younger than me. He's one of my best friends now. We had coordinated that day, like, because we had the same goals, but we found out he was in wave 2 and I was in wave 17. So I would start 15 minutes behind him. And he's like, all right, if you run a 10-minute or an 8-minute pace and I run a 10-minute pace. He was trying to work out all the math and I'm thinking, there's no way I'm running that fast catching up to you. Well, I ended up catching up to him around 17 or 18 miles and we ran the rest of the race together and we loved it. And I think just having his name's Kanan Gardner, great guy. He lives in Alaska now. We ran that race together and I think our enjoyment together of that, we just kept talking about races and yeah, that's how it went.
Did you have any issues during the race?
Just, yeah, I mean, I was sore. I was broke off and I had no idea of fueling. I just ate stuff at the aid stations. I mean, which I think a lot of people do. And we just silly. We're like in the middle of the run and he's like, yeah, I made these sweet potato slices and put salt on them last night. And he gets this baggie out and he gives me one. And it is the most saltiest thing I've ever had in my life. And I couldn't even eat it. And I'm like, Kanan, what the hell is this, man? It like burnt my mouth. I mean, the stupid stuff we did. And I think we ate a lot of goos too. So we had goos with us, which no offense to goo, I'm sorry, I just do not like them. They're too thick and I just don't like them. And so we had those and we had aid station stuff. But I don't remember any major issues. We just suffered through it and we were very proud of ourselves. I remember having bloody toes when I took my socks off. I remember a lot of fluid in my toes. And when I took the socks off, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Got my first purple toenails.
I was feeling that.
Yeah. I knew something was going on down there. And when we were at the end and we were at the picnic tables, I took it off. I'm like, oh, that's grody. But I felt like that was a badge of honor. I've always felt that way, that I did that to myself, no natural cause that I couldn't control. I want to make myself like that.
Yeah. Well, and it looks like you've done, moving on to the next race, you did a race in Kentucky, which we all pretty well know, the Big Turtle.
Yeah, that was a toughie. That was a hard day. That was actually our first like absolute contemplating DNF and one of the last ones because the turnaround, I don't know how the course ended up being later years, but the turnaround was that downhill and then you had to come right back uphill like a 3-mile section and it was a huge climb and we were tore up. And when we got to that mile 48 station, his 2 buddies had driven down from Dayton to pace us. And we were like laying on the ground at that aid station. We were like, we're going to drop. And we were only like 8 hours in at 40 miles. And we had so much time. And we were just in our heads. And they brought us like these hometown burgers somewhere from local. And they were wrapped in aluminum foil, like fresh fries. And we ate all that. And they convinced us to keep going. We kind of felt bad that they drove all the way down. One of them took me, one of them took him, and this guy, my buddy Kanan, just freaking takes off. He just gets this second wind, and it's a really hilly section that last 10 miles, and it's absolutely just pouring down rain, and we finished it out, and that was a good experience. I really liked that race a lot.
Yeah, and it's there's some pretty technical terrain in Kentucky. I mean, it's some of that stuff is like is this one go through? I'm trying to remember, is it on the Daniel Boone National Byway too, like some of the ATV trails?
So the Daniel Boone does sound familiar. I know it started at Moorhead, or what's the university or
Yeah,
whatever.
Moorhead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So it started there, and then it like went right up behind the university and right into these trails. It's been a while.
Well, you're consistent though. You did Mohican 50 in 10 hours, and you did Big Turtle in 10 hours. And what I love to see now, this is the progression that I love to see, is that your very first attempt at Get Lucky 50, which you just had your best performance at, but in 2022 you ran it in 8 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And then we come on up to
Which Kanan and I did that whole one together too.
Did you really?
Yeah, we did do that one together. We were psyched at that fast time. We couldn't believe that. Oh my gosh.
And then 2024, you run it in 6 hours and 4 minutes. You get second place. And then, just going through your story here, like seeing the progression, you obviously just finished that race in March, but you shaved another 30 plus minutes off of your time just in that last year, putting you at 5:33 total time, 5 hours, 33 minutes, first place overall. And that gave you're currently the top performance for a 50 mile in the US right now with that finishing time, which is awesome. But to see your progression from 10 hours to 8 hours to 6 hours to now 5.5 hours, what do you think is the most impactful thing that you've done to help you get there? Do you think it's just the consistent training, or have you actually started following a training plan, or do you just still kind of run how you want to run? But what do you think has helped you with your performance?
I think it's two things. I think it's consistent volume, which I believe in a lot of zone 2 training, just training that engine, and then dieting. I'm not the best in my diet, but like I would say 80% of the time I'm pretty good. And my main focus is really high protein, and I try not to sweet snack. I save the sugar for specific things like races, and like I save caffeine for races. I save music for races. I save all these like little cheat codes, kind of what I call them, luxuries, for races. And I think it just gives me little boosts. But volume is huge. If you can stay safe doing it, it's like you're just making your body more and more and more efficient. And it's, every time you do a race, your effort is really the same. It's just how well your body is going to perform with that effort based on your training. So every race should hurt the same if you want to push the same. That's how I look at it. And when I went into this last Get Lucky, I didn't really look into the science too much about it, but I kind of figured, I looked at last year's heart rate data, and I was like, I think I need to be in the 150s. I think that's like sustainable for 50 miles. And I did a training run on the Tuesday before. I was kind of in a taper, which that's another thing I neglect. I actually did a taper this time. But on Tuesday at work at lunch, I said, all right, I want to see what my 150 heart rate pace is. And I was nice and recovered and everything. And it was like a 6:35 pace. And I was like, all right, we're locked in. We're going to see some crazy stuff this Saturday. I didn't know if it was possible, but I just think a lot of stars aligned, and I just tried to really, for lack of better terms, restrict myself to the very bare bones of like what's going to make this happen. And I had 3 pacers lined up for that. They have no designation of whether pacers matter or not in the race, which was super cool. My wife met me every 5 miles, switched me off bottles. It was an operation, and I had like 10 miles alone, and that was it. And just buddies just helping me fly. And like I said, volume and diet. And I think diet is so important because protein is the building blocks of everything. I mean, you can't support a ton of work without rebuilding yourself, in my opinion. And water. I don't drink anything else but water. Like, it's boring, but I really like water, and it's the nectar of life, baby. I mean, it keeps you lubricated, and your body needs it. And like right after a race, my two things are I chug a bunch of water and I have my protein shake. I've made this smoothie for 2 years of all these ingredients I put together, and I make sure that's the first thing in my body because I know my muscles are sponges and it needs it.
Yeah, that's smart. That's
smart.
really smart. Like the first 2 to 3 hours after a really, really hard effort is the window to take in carbs and protein to help recover. So the fact that you're doing that is after a race is really smart. That's helping you with your recovery.
I'll even fly with my blender or drive with my blender, and I keep it with me. Like that is 9 times out of 10, I will make sure that is my first consummation after a race.
Well, and I love the fact that, diet's probably not the best word to use. I don't want people to think like you're dieting on here.
Yeah, I don't like that word either because I don't follow anything. Yeah.
But focusing on macros, and your most important macro is protein.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Like if you're trying to get 200 grams per day or whatever your goal is, that's at your training level, that is genius. Like, I don't know if you've done research to find that out, but what you're doing is exactly what you should be doing. And if you target the right amount of protein, it automatically makes you almost eat better because you're going to fill up on protein.
Yeah.
So you don't snack on all the other stuff. I mean, 200 grams of protein is a lot.
Yeah, 200 is what I try to hit. So
yeah,
you hit
me
it right
too.
on the
And that's great. But if you do that alone, a lot of that cleans your diet up already. And, but it's really macro focused. But I love the fact that you carve out little like nuggets for yourself to celebrate like your race, which is the music and the sugar and stuff like that. I think that's pretty smart. That's kind of like a reward for yourself when you get to race, like a celebration. But I will tell you, the fact that you're focusing so much on your aerobic training has built such an aerobic engine for you. Focusing on zone 2 all the time, you're just building your stroke volume up for your heart, and efficiency you're creating out of that is awesome. A lot of people do it backwards. They focus on speed work and don't ever build that aerobic engine. And that doesn't really get you there in a long endurance event. It might help you with a 5K, but it's never going to help you with a longer. I actually been listening to a podcast today. I'm kind of like you. When I run, I listen to podcasts. I try to save my music for the races, but every time I run, I listen to a podcast. Sometimes I listen to myself and think, why did you say that? But, one of the things I was listening to was they were talking about how much it hurts your performance and it can lead to other issues if all you do is train fast all the time. And it was a really interesting thing that they were talking about. If you don't ever really focus on your, like you're saying, zone 2, but they're talking about low heart rate stuff, aerobic endurance, it can lead to all kinds of heart issues too, which I didn't realize that. So that was kind of an interesting thing, that people just focus on speed or always are, rapidly getting their heart rate up. But a really interesting thing I heard today is they were talking about doing hill repeats. And during the hill repeats,
pay the bills.
If you're doing like, even if it's VO2 max or you're doing strides, but this was really more VO2 max efforts. If you're pushing really hard, you're doing a 60-second run up a hill, trying to get that heart rate up, to jog for, they were saying even a couple of minutes at the least, because what that does is apparently all the blood rushes through. And if you continue to jog, you're pushing that blood on through. So it's helping increase that volume and size of capillaries. And I was like, it's really interesting. I've never heard that. I've always heard, or jog back down, but they were saying you should jog for a few minutes to push that blood flow on through, because the blood is actually still flowing, and it's better for you to jog it out a little longer. Instead of just jogging right back down the hill and going back up, they're saying you should jog for a few minutes and help that blood push on through, then go back.
I totally agree with that. I mean, hills are superior for sure. And I think with that, how I've always understood it is, the low endurance is building that extreme interconnected web of capillaries, but then the high anaerobic is allowing the blood that does go through those to be more oxygenated. So that's your VO2. So you have
Absolutely.
more highways, and then now you have beefier cars. That's how I've always thought of it too. I want to listen to that. Whatever you send that to me after this,
I
because I
will.
would like to listen.
It was really good. The podcast is actually about strength and endurance, but it's really good. It's I think the guy's from the Soviet Union.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's interesting. He's very intelligent. I'll send it to you though. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, and I think I've always said too, hills are like it is the best way to replicate like full max effort feel without beating up your joints uphill. And I think because it's mostly muscle engaging. When you're going downhill, of course, it's just slamming your joints. But uphill, if you're comparing that to running on a track, let's say flat, you're still pounding your joints more. But uphill, you're never like in full extension except when you're pressing off. So you're never landing hard like that. And I think there's a lot to be said about hills. I had never done speed work until this past December, ever. I've always ran a lot of hills and a lot of road races, short road races. So that's been my speed work, but I've never done any designated speed work until December.
Well, it's obviously working, so
Definitely
whatever
paid
you're doing
off.
seems to be paying off. Just small doses of it. Yeah, you're doing it right. And to your point though, hills, like if you're going to do like speed work, hills is really good to do because you have a less chance of injury because it fixes your stride and it's
Yeah.
lower impact. I mean, that's the thing, and you can get your heart rate up quicker. But obviously, the little doses of speed work that you are doing has helped you to improve your time. I mean, you shaved 30 minutes off in a year. Actually, you've shaved 40 minutes off because you were 6:0 something. So you almost 40 minutes, which is great. I mean, because your previous time was already fast. Did you have a fueling strategy this time? Obviously, it
Yeah.
wasn't goose.
What's that?
I said, obviously, it wasn't goose.
It was very much that's something I could have improved on is so I've in the past year or two really kind of focused on I want 400 calories an hour and 100 grams of carbs an hour. And what I did is I had two 12-ounce bottles. They were like these soft flask things. And I also had the beta cis gels, the cis beta gels. And which this is just something that I do. I try stuff out new on race day, and that was fine. My stomach handles things really well. And I think what I've just found, even from GDR2, was you're going to do powder drinks or gels. Like, don't do both because it's just too much and your body just can't digest quick enough. And I was trying to hit 500 to 600 calories because I've been listening to David Roach a lot and I think he's just a beast. But something that I've done in the past 2 years that I just neglected was I will pound all my fuel once an hour instead of bleeding it through the hour because I feel like my digestive system is just getting overloaded. Well, I kind of neglected that for that and GDR. And I wish I didn't. But what I did during Get Lucky was I sipped on Tailwind for the hour leading up to it. And then once I got to that 5 mile mark, Sam, my wife, gave me those two bottles and they had 100 calories of each. No, one of them had 200 calories of Tailwind. The other one was just plain water. And then I would also take one cis gel each 5 mile segment. She'd be ready to hand them off to me. And so that was 24 ounces of water every 5 miles too. Way overkill and just something I was just testing out. And mile 35, I ended up puking because it was just so much liquid. And I took my second set of pills. I always take these pills before I start a race, beet powder and amino acids, electrolytes, and slow release caffeine pill. And I wanted to take it again at mile 35, and I had too much liquid, and I put them in, and they came right back out. And then I start walking a little bit more, and then I puke again, and it was just all the tailwind and everything coming up. So then I kind of ditched a little bit of liquids altogether, and I just waited till like the next 6 or 7 mile section with nothing to just let my body clear it the heck out. So that's something I could have improved on. But long story short, I try to hit that 400, 100 per hour. I'd like to get the number up. I just know that I need to do it once, maybe every 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And it's responded to me well in the past year or two. So, yeah.
You're doing it the right way. You just got to keep training it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the race that I just did. That's exactly what I did. The exact same number you threw out. I focused on, I was doing the carbs gels. It's the first time I've raced with those, but I did the carbs gels and they're
I just use it at GDR.
Yeah, they're
They're
200
awesome.
calories, 50 grams carbs. So every 30 minutes on the dot, I just nailed it because, it's basically your glycogen system. You need to replenish it about every 30 minutes. So I was like, and if you can take all of it at the same time, that's great. Not a lot of people can take 2 gels at the same time.
What
I
I've
had,
understood from listening to David Roche, though, is, and this is up to debate, though, but what I've understood is super flooding your system like that does take time to get used to, and then your stomach lining will handle it. Because I think he like started reading on competitive eaters, and that's how they got to that. And that was like, oh my gosh, I believe in that. Nobody else has ever said that before. And what I would do, like even during my hundreds last year, I would take a 16-ounce bottle with 200 or 300 calories all at once, and then I would drink a whole nother plain bottle of water. And people would just thought I was crazy, but my body wasn't sloshing around ever. So I think that's right on the head. I think it works. It just takes a long time to train that.
yeah, I mean, I think it takes a long time, period, to train running a hard effort and taking fuel and keeping
True.
it down. That's really hard to do. And I did the exact same thing you did at Yeti 50 last year. I was trying to run it in 6 hours or something, and I was doing liquid fuel and gels.
Yep.
And I hit
Mhm.
mile 45 and I puked everywhere. And like literally the last mile of the race, I'm coming up the hill in first place, walking, trying to keep it down, and like everybody's cheering me on at the finish line, and I'm like, and I finally was able to run through the finish line, but like it had all. I mean, it's one of those where you're like, kind of like you at mile 30ish, you're just puking, and like you can run, but you can't run till you get it all out of your system, and I was just like trying so hard, and literally I did exactly what you were just talking about at this race, and that was I only did like fuel from gels, and I just drank electrolytes. I no tailwind or anything like that, and that was much better this time on my stomach. I think just both of them together, it's almost too much. It creates a sloshing feeling if you're doing liquid and the gels at the same time.
Yeah. It kind of
Consider
gives you, my wife and I call it furry teeth too. Yeah. You ever feel that where it's almost like if you drank a bunch of pop and your mouth just feels nasty, like palate blindness, it's just gross.
Yeah, my fiance. It's funny you said that. She'll literally show up to my races with a toothbrush.
Toothbrush, yeah.
Yeah, and she's like,
Yes, isn't that the best feeling ever to brush
it
your
really
teeth
is.
over?
I'm like, that's genius. So what do you do? So let's talk a little bit while we're already on Lucky Fit. And thank you for sharing so much detail with us on what you did. I think that's awesome with your nutrition. And don't know if you got a coach or not, but you're obviously reading and doing a lot of the right stuff. So continue.
Yeah.
But what did you do as far as, so, Get Lucky 50 was March 15th.
Mhm.
Georgia Death Race was March 29th. So you literally had roughly 2 weeks to come off of the 50 miler, rest, recover, and then start right back for the Georgia Death Race, which is an easy race either. I mean, no, actually, no ultra is easy. It's all relative to effort. A 74 miler in the Georgia mountains, though, it's got some elevation to it. What did you focus on for recovery?
I have kind of forced my body. Force is a bad term, I guess, but like I have really forced my body over the years because I race so much that I'm ready to run on tired legs. And I had 2 weeks between. And to be honest, like I knew it was enough. I mean, I had done that same combination in 24 with Georgia Death Race because this is my third time doing it. And it, I just focus on a ton of protein, and I basically, well, that week after Get Lucky, I ran, I think 70 something miles, and I did 40 or 50 miles on the bike. And then by Saturday, I crewed a friend at Ohio Backyard Ultra. I did 24 miles that day. And then from Sunday through Friday, I just did like a really easy 5 miles a day, just light work, just motion in the legs. Um, and it recovered. And I think because I've done a lot of back-to-back races that my body's like, dude, we need to recover right away. Like I've done back-to-back 50Ks a lot of times, and it's miserable in the moment, but I think my body just figured out like, hey, I need to recover quick. And again, I think the super high protein intake has just taught my body to recover I think I feel bad saying that because like a lot of people would say like, yeah, that is really dumb to do that 50 miler before Georgia. My mindset with it is I've trained a lot of hills. Now it's time to get that leg turnover. Let's use what I've done, get some leg turnover on some flats. You can't gain any more benefit from hills 2 weeks out. So let's get a long heart rate effort and then you'll be supercharged ready for the race. And that's kind of how I felt about it.
Well, and same thing for Georgia Death Race. I just looked at your last 3 results and, 24, I guess you've done it 4 times. Is that right?
This is my 3rd.
Okay. Yeah. So you went from 16 hours. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. So in 2023, you went from 21 hours to 16 hours in 24 to 13 hours 2025. I mean, obviously, your consistency, your training, it's all paying off and you're figuring out your nutrition. And I mean, you see it. You see it in your results. So you're on the right track. And I can't wait to see what you do in these next few races. I mean, you've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races on Ultra Sign Up that you've already read.
So, yeah, you do. Wow.
That's all you see on Ultra Sign Up. I'll tell you, it doesn't come with all uphill. Only like local people know this, but I went through a heart scare in 2023 from October through January of 24. And I had a lot of pressure in my chest. And I ended up going to the emergency room. And it was like a thumbprint, like pressing into my heart. And I didn't know what the heck it was. And it just got to the point, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a heart attack. And went to the hospital. I was there for like 12 hours in the emergency room. And they called it pericarditis, like the swelling of the sac around the heart. And I was destroyed. Like I just thought my life was over. And like I said, this is October 23. I just ran Canal Corridor, did it like 16 and a half hours. It was like my best race of my life at that point. And then I wasn't running. It was just all to nothing. And I was like walking 80 miles a week just because I'm like, I just worked so hard to keep this up. I'd go on 10-mile walks after work and it was just eating me up. I was crying every single day. I mean, this was months and I just shut myself into my room and it looks pitiful back then, but it was a lot. And we still never figured out what it was. They put me on all these medications. The doctors didn't listen at all. They were 8-minute visits. Pushed me right out. We all have those stories. I was very distraught back then. This is the crazy thing. I kind of came to a realization. So I started messing around with fasting and I would do 24-hour fasts, whatnot. One day I did a fast and I was still dealing with these issues and I was probably 20 hours in. My dad said, hey, come over to my house after work. And, he made food for me. He made some spaghetti and I broke my fast with it. And my pain was like subsided through the day. And then I ate, and on my way home, I felt it again. And I'm like, what in the heck? And I called my wife, and she's like, maybe you have an ulcer or something. I never got it checked out, and I ended up talking to a friend and her, and I got antacid, and it mostly went away. And that was like 4 months of misery. And I still feel it from time to time, but like now I just think it might have just been, I wore something away because I have a lifelong of crazy headaches. And I think this is what it was, you ever heard of Goody's headache powder? Never heard of that before. So it's old, like, just pain reliever brand. They're a powder. It's like a pixie stick and I would take them and it would help my headaches. I just think because it's powder, it's just coating, as it goes down. And I think over time it was burning a hole or something. I'm not a doctor or anything. And I stopped doing that altogether and it's mostly gone. But I say that it was like my whole life was over because this is what I really, really love to do. I never found a passion that meant this much to me. And people think my progress is just skyrocketing, and it is, but there's a lot of things in between that go unseen. And I think that goes with everybody that does this kind of stuff. And not everybody is open to sharing it. I did share it with a lot of people and there was a lot of people that supported me, but what happened when I come home is still in misery. At the end of the day, we all go home and I'm still dealing with it. Yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there. And I think it's when people deal with those things, just know if you want to get out of it, you'll figure it out, and it may change your life, but if you still want to do amazing things, you're going to figure something out. And I did. And eventually my first race back was in January of 24, and I was just going to jog the Night Owl Marathon, which is in Southern Ohio. It's a night marathon. I started running, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't feel it. And I was just so pumped. I just started running hard again, and I was just on cloud nine, and then things just started taking off again, and I was just getting out there running. And what was bugging me so much back then when I dealt with that is like, man, I am like eating right. I am drinking only water. I'm doing all the right things. And then I have these people I'll race with, and they're like, yeah, I just drink Mountain Dew all day. And I'm like, get the hell out of here, man. That's not even fair. But life's not fair, and we all have different stories, and you just have to focus on yourself. And that's what I did, and I got out of it.
It's funny you say that, because I had someone else tell me that they used to take goodies powders, and that's all they would take, and they developed ulcers from those. And they had to quit taking them.
And they work really well because it's like aspirin, whatever. It's like instant caffeine, and that's why it hits you really well. But I think it's just something you might want to take every once in a while, but they're not supposed to be here. They're supposed to dissolve when they're in your stomach.
Yeah, I think this person was taking them quite often.
Yeah, I was taking them almost every day. I've gotten headaches 5 or 6 days a week my whole life. And now that I'm running high volume, I'll go 6-7 months without a headache, which is so weird. And I think just because my body needs to extend the energy.
The blood through, so you're self-regulating it now.
Less blood up here.
Well, we've talked a little bit about your marathons, your 50Ks, and then your top performances here so far this year. But let's talk about your first 100-miler.
Oh, yeah. Well, something not a lot of people know is, because it doesn't show it on Ultra Sign Up, is my first 100-mile attempt was in 21. I think it's 21. It was at Mohican. And they did tell us we could drop down, and they'll still hold us to this day. We ended up dropping down to 50. We'd done the 50 already a year before, me and Kanan. And we dropped out. Well, they said, oh, no, we don't do that. They told us after. So it doesn't exist on any result. We still did the 50. So to the Ultra Sign-Up gods, I have no DNFs, right?
Yeah.
But that was a really rough day. I had I still have a bad back problem. I have like a tilt in my pelvis, and it was just absolutely killing me. It took me 15 and a half hours. And Arlen Glick came in to beat the record for the 100 when I came in for the 50. I never even knew him at that point. But I finished out the 50, right? But then 2 years later, we attempted the 100 again, and we crushed it. It went a lot better. Georgia Death Race was what Kanan and I chose as an intermediate distance, which is so funny because it's way harder than 100 than I believe. So we did Georgia as a joke. We signed up for the wait list, and we literally got in the next day, and he's like, I didn't even tell my wife yet. So we signed up for Georgia. We did it. And then Mohican 100 was on the docket, and we showed up that day. It got into the 90s. It was a super duper hot day, and we finished in like 23 and some change. It was sub 24, pretty hard course, 16,000 feet of elevation. We have a lot of love for that course. We've done that 53 times, and it was awesome. I mean, it was a solid day, and I will remember that day that I, for some reason, never had a low point. I never had to death march or anything, and it went well. It was cool. And in the year that I DNF'd the 100, my cousin Corey was going to pace me, and he waited for like 6 hours for me to get there, and then he never even paced me. And so he was like putt golfing there in town, and he had no AC in his car, so he's like melting that year. What a year. I mean, we came by a lot. We came really far from there. The first 100 was beautiful, and my wife got me a cool gift for that. She found a person that does this on Etsy. It's like this picture frame that has the course outline pulled from Strava, and it shows the distance, and it says 100 mile, and it is really special to me. I mean, just doing 100 mile is something different, hitting that triple digit. It was only 97.5 miles that year. I'll still always remember that. But we got it done. They actually had a section that they did not add that they should have. But then the next year was 103 miles, so we got ours.
Back, got it back.
That's right. But yeah, I was psyched after that, and I really felt like I was on top of the world.
What was your what was your biggest takeaways on like your first real 100? Like, did you have some really, really low points or anything, or did everything go okay?
So that one I didn't have any necessarily low points, but I did learn, and I have friends that are on both sides of me with this. I did learn that walking isn't always the best option because you're losing out on a lot of crucial momentum and just mental fatigue. Yeah, it may feel better in the moment, but your cardio will typically last way longer than your legs. But what beats your legs up more is just pure muscle use. And running has a lot of momentum that helps that. Walking, you're just engaging muscle. And I learned that a lot that day was, yeah, it's going to hurt either way, but just keep jogging. And, that goes to be said. Some people are not able to do that. It may take them 32 hours to finish the 100, but maybe just do a 50K and say, I'm going to run for as most as possible. I'm going to walk for at least as possible. If I bonk the hell out at 20 miles, I bonk, but I'm going to figure it out and just see if it works for me. And I think that 100 taught me that was I just need to run more. I mean, and it kept my energy levels high. And when you start walking too, what are you not burning anymore? It's sugars. You're burning your fats. But then what do we keep consuming? A shit ton of sugar. Sorry. A crap ton of sugar.
You can cuss all you want. It's fine.
Okay. So, and we just keep pounding food. And then we're like, maybe we need to eat more food. And now our stomachs are crazy full and we don't even have the heart rate to burn anything. And just things start collapsing on itself. And then you're not thirsty anymore. Running keeps your body efficient. It's meant to run in that kind of long distance. If you meant to go into it to hike it, that's different. You're hiking from the beginning. But how do you go from running for a while in the beginning and then your body's just like, oh my gosh, I'm walking. And nobody walks when they're feeling good. Unless you're walking a hill, like there's a strategy to it.
Yeah.
But usually the death walking comes.
Yeah. Usually the walk is already slightly off kilter or off gate anyways, because you've already got to that point, you've destroyed yourself. But you're exactly right. Like it creates, even with your feet, you create hot spots because you've trained to run. You run every day if you're truly training for like 100-mile race, and to get in your head like at mile 50 and just start walking, you're going to have a whole lot different pain than what you've been used to because you're used.
And what do you think too? You're like, oh my God, mile 50, 55. I mean, it's going to take 600 years to finish that race. It's going to be the longest day of your life.
But, sometimes that's the only way people can finish. And I get that too. I've walked my fair share in 100 miles. My very first 100-miler, I bet I walked the last 20 miles. I had no idea what I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd signed up for the original Warhammer, and dude, I had no idea. I filled up the bladder completely. Did not know what I was doing. I get like 5 miles into that race, and I just pour the bladder out, and I'm like, "What am I doing?" Learned all about chafing, at that point too. So it was wonderful. But to your point,
it's like I tell us to everyone out there. Unless you are absolutely injured, you are hurt, finish that damn thing. Like, this is what you're growing. It doesn't matter about your body. And if you build that habit of, oh, I can just drop out, you're going to have a rough time. And that's no knock to anybody that does drop out, but tell yourself, I am going to give it literally everything. You're not going to die. If you feel like you're going to die, maybe that's different. But let's see if your mind's playing with you. That's why it's good to also. Some people don't have a lot of people in their circle, but if you do, if you at least have one person to be there with you, crewing you, or just a family member, have them as an intermediary that can talk to you and brief them ahead of time. You're going to see me in hell. You're going to see the literal worst you've ever seen me in your entire life. But ask me these questions and you're going to know my state. Like, listen, I want to finish this 100%. But if you break your femur off, that's different, but if you're just like, oh, my feet hurt, finish that thing so you can still good habits in your brain. And I totally get the people that take all 40 hours to finish 100. That's crazy. Like, that's a lot of work. And the fact that you fought through that is like commendable. You know, you got through every bit of that race. That is the definition of endure. And I love that word. You have endured everything that's been thrown at you. If you haven't laid in the woods in the middle of the night, you know, that's what it takes to get some of these races done. And that's just my message, is finish it. Do what needs to be done that day.
Yeah. And you take so much away when you do that for yourself. I mean, you're right. It helps you so much mentally when you're preparing for your next event. You're like, I've already done this. I know I can do it.
Yeah.
But man, to see someone like miss their A goal and just drop.
Yep.
Kind of drives me nuts sometimes. I mean, I get it if you have another big race coming up and you're like, I got to stop. I'm going to focus. I'm just going to go do this race. I understand that. But I also understand sometimes it's good just to do the hard thing. The day didn't go your way. Tough it the hell out and try to finish it.
Yep.
That's basically what happened to me.
Like at my last race, I mean, I had a goal that I wanted to do. Well, that went to crap in 30 or 40 miles. But, hey, I want to finish the race. I mean, the time that I wanted was done, but the 100 miles was getting done. I got the buckle. And, you know, you learn. You taught yourself that you can push through, even though that your stomach and all that's gone.
Yeah, I mean, not every race is going to go perfect.
No.
You're going to have a couple of really good races, and you're going to think, man, I've got this shit figured out. And then this next race, nothing will go right.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and then that's when you really cling on to that. I've been here before. I can do this. Yep. So I think that's an important message that you're saying. It's like, you sometimes just got to tough it out. I mean, the people that
the most familiar feeling you've ever had in your life, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what this feels like. I know what it feels like when all I can think of is like, how the hell do I get out of here? Like, you're thinking of every way you can cut that course ever, you know, but your integrity is telling you, no, I'm not. You're thinking of anything, like anything. You know, could somebody just shoot me out here? That's a mental fortitude. Spend more time in that death zone and it won't be as scary. You know, you're going to get through it for sure.
Yep. Yeah. When you're into that point, you're going to find out so much about who you are, yep. Like truly who you are. And when you wake up the next morning, you're going to be so proud of yourself as opposed to just quitting, because you're never going to forget that you quit. Like, you just take that with you. But when you do the really hard shit and you stay in there and you finish it, you don't forget that. Like, that is a little nugget you always keep with you. And it just builds that confidence even more every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I asked that to say, when is the next 100?
My next 100 is an interesting one. It is on May 17th. It is called the Hialeah, and it's a 3-mile loop. Gruesome. It's like 200 feet a loop. I think it's up in Richfield. I forget the name of the town, but it's real close to me. Loop courses are a lot of fun. It's a different strategy. But May through June is going to be absolutely crazy. You know, I have May 17th is Hialeah, and then May 31st is Mohican again, and then June 7th is Eagle Up 100. So we're doing super back to back to back.
You forgot running with my Nomies 50K.
Okay, yeah, I got 50K in there, you know.
Yeah, you definitely got quite a spread there for races. And
my most important one is Mohican, for sure.
Is that your A race?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really choose A races, but like, I want to do super well at that. Sometimes if I show up and I'm like thinking, wow, things are going to go really well, I don't know. I mean, really only A race I've had in a while was Georgia, but Mohican I would really like to do well at. So yeah, I guess we could call it that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good. I mean, I think it's good to pick the race you know you really want to do well at, you know. Obviously, I don't think Bob's is an A race for you, but you're going back to Bob's. And just a small little window here for the listeners is, we didn't even know this till today, but Alec and I ran Bob's together this past year. So we were looking at a picture and we saw Chris Stamen in the background, and I was like, oh, I was at that race too. So we had no idea. Obviously, our tents were probably even side by side, but looks like your day at Bob's went about like mine did.
Yeah. Yeah, at Burning River, I had actually. So Burning River was like my just best
Did
effort.
Burning River a week before Bob's?
Yeah. Yeah, and like Bob's wasn't meant to be like some super long effort, I know.
16.
Yeah. Well, so Burning River, I was on track for sub 14 until about mile 80, 85. And I was flying. Like things were going super duper well. And then just I exploded. I started spitting blood for the last 2 hours. Things were going south. I was dizzy. It went explosive. So I led the race until I think it was like mile 88 or 89. And then the next two guys passed me. And I was just death walking. I really thought I was going to beat the record that day. And I just couldn't believe things were going so stinking well. And I think I just needed to take an extra couple seconds at stations and drink more water. You know, I had a lot of water. I just think I needed more. And I just think that's what it all came down to. And what I was getting at too with Bob's is I had hurt like the back of my right knee, I guess at some point in Burning River, just a lot of trauma on it. So that week I couldn't straighten my leg. It was just about here. And when I did straighten it, I just felt, like in the back tendons. I just felt like creaking. So I just did like a lot of biking that week and I got into Bob's and it was hurting when we first started. It was like Theragunning it, like doing all this stuff, just stupid. And I got to 50 miles and I'm like, I'm done. I'm not gonna tear myself, like I will rip my leg open. Like I will just keep pushing, which sucked because I felt so incredible. Like I felt like I could have gone so well that day, but my leg just was not letting me. And I made a good
Made the right
decision. And
Yeah,
what's
you made
that?
the right decision.
Yeah, I just love Bob's. And like I said, I've only had 1 year that I really did a huge effort. I did 116 2 years ago, and I think I could go a lot farther now. I've just never carved out a really good time to taper and do it right. Same thing with this year. Because really, my biggest race I'm looking forward to is Eastern States, and I want it to be a healthy race. And I just said, hey, Bob, I just want to come and just do your race a little bit. So I'll go there and do some loops, and I probably won't even set up a tent, just hang out at the main station and just have a good time.
Yeah. I wonder if Ron's running that this year. You might see Ron there. I don't know if he's signing up or not.
Yeah.
He's got a cat.
So how overall for Georgia Death Race, did everything go the way you wanted it to?
I mean, nobody can ever say completely, but uh, it went pretty well. One thing I definitely have a fault at is I didn't train with a pack at all. I hate wearing a pack. I hate it. I just feel like
Agreed.
yeah, I just want to be free. I don't like carrying things in my hands. I don't like things on my back. And I didn't wear that pack until race day. Well, the day before I ran with it and it was like 6 pounds or something. We have to carry 22 ounces of water capability, rain jacket, buff, beanie, gloves, headlamp, batteries, the railroad spike, a lot of stuff. And I had 10 gels 3 times. So it was a lot of weight. And I didn't train as many hills as I wanted to. Like I did a lot, but it wasn't a lot, I guess, in my standards. From January to the race, I did about 70,000. And I kind of stopped doing hills like at the end of February because I was just doing a bunch of crazy races. And I think that I could have just done more hills. But during the race, the first 10 miles are just insane. I mean, you gain just an absolute incredible amount of elevation. In fact, like at the marathon point, you're at 7,500 feet and you're just climbing straight up. And by the marathon point, I'm like, man, my legs are toast. And I'm like, man, we're only a third of the way into this. And like, I really had aspirations to place at least. And I think what really got me through that race is I've just visited the pain cave a lot and I was in absolute misery. And I got to mile 40 and I actually was on a podcast, the Rest Day Reflections with Chris and Carly, and I listened to that for the first time. And that was the first thing I listened to all day. And I started listening to it and it made me really happy. I started crying, I just thinking it was just so cool to hear my own story back and it just got my head moving again. Got up that hill and at Winding Stairs, what it's called. I think it's like mile 42. When I've seen my wife there in years past, I am crying like crazy. Well, I got there this year and I'm just like, hey, what's up? And, we were ready to go. And they're like, you need anything? I was like, I need some motivation, baby. And we moved on. And then it's like a 3 or 4 mile, literally downhill the whole time. And that's just like a quad destruction. And I got through that, and my legs were like 500 pounds, and I just kept just throwing them in front of me. I wish I had more leg strength, and my cardio was solid. And I think if I had that leg strength, I think I got to place so much higher. Totally grateful for what I did, and it was incredible shaving 3 hours off. I just know that was a fault of my own. And the increased weight from the pack. I mean, I'm literally wearing a weight vest that my legs weren't used to. And I hardly peed at all. And like, that's kind of my gauge for like if I'm hydrated enough. And I ended up being like almost 4 gallons during the race because it was 32 ounces at all 9 stops. And then I had 4 interjectory drinks that I pounded to. And I was just sweating through it all. And it wasn't even like that hot. It was humid. And there was a lot of nice cloud coverage. Something I did right, though, is I do a lot of sauna training, so I think that did help that. But yeah, just the hills. Everybody says they could work on hills more, and I love hills. I was just getting beat up from them, and I knew I needed a break by like mid-February. So I'm signing up for it again. So I'm coming back stronger all the time, and I know eventually I'm going to hit a dip. I mean, I get that. I'm just waiting to just really hit a down period again, and we're going to get through it.
I mean, that only makes you want to be better.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster just like the actual race is.
Right. And I love Georgia. I mean, it was awesome. And we had 9 of us Ohio guys go down, and we had a group chat from last March until now. And it was awesome seeing them. We got to go to the mile 52 aid station after I was done, and we crewed like 5 of them. That was super fun. And only 2 of them DNF'd, and they're coming back next year to crush it. And I'm trying to get another group going. Hey, you want to do something crazy? Let's get it. It's going to open up soon. And that race changed my life 2 years ago. I absolutely believe that. It made me feel like I knew how to train. It felt like the highest profile race. It's still the highest profile race I've ever done. And back in 2023, when I finished it, the next week I started the 75 hard challenge, and I got through it, and I felt so locked in. I'd never done anything crazy like that before. And I didn't stick to that much strictness after, but I felt like things were different. And yeah, it set me up for success for sure.
Well, and I will say Sean and Dina did a really good job of updating throughout the day. So we were able, our group was even like the East Coast group. We got this huge group that's in a chat, and they were like following along on the Facebook pages as far as like when they were updating and stuff. Yeah. And even one of the guys that I ran pistol with I always do this little thing on Friday where I ask what everybody's doing, and his first response was, he's like, I'm going to be waking up Saturday morning and checking to see who's leading the Georgia Death Race.
That's
so
cool.
Everybody was following it. So it was really fun. And they did a good job this year of updating it. And it looks like, the race was pretty close, though, like first through third. I mean, you all were very close throughout the whole way. I think in the very beginning, that one guy was pretty far ahead.
Yeah, and he ended up taking fourth even. Yeah. So, which is crazy. I mean, he was absolutely annihilating it. And I just think sometimes the pressure being in the lead, I've been there, and I don't think that's necessarily would have got him, but it's just hard to hold that spot. And what's so funny, so the Anthony guy that won, he passed me and Katie at like mile, which was first female at the time. We were 3rd and 4th. We were 2nd and 3rd. Passed us at like mile 30, right before the Long Creek station, and he just runs right past us, and I was like, dang, you're feeling good. He's like, I'm from California, and I think my legs just finally woke up because we're a couple hours behind. And I was like, you get it, dude. And we never saw that dude again. And he just kept flying and flying, and he ended up passing Kyle. And then eventually I got ahead of Katie, and I was in 3rd for a long time. And at the 62 mile aid station at the top of Winding Stair, Nibblewell, I was like, all right, lay it down for me. Where's he at? And they're like, oh, he just walked through. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was on the phone with my buddy, and I was like, dude, he's right ahead of here. And I ran down that hill, and he was walking. And I get up there, and I said, what are you doing, Kyle? And he's like, I just got done throwing up. I said, listen, you're going to fucking get through this. You understand? I said, I don't care how bad you're feeling. You're going to get through this shit. And he just kind of like chuckles. He's like, I've been throwing up. I said, you've been at low points in your life before. You're going to get through this. And we had like a cool little talk. And I said, all right, I'm going to get going. And I told him, I said, I'm just letting you know, I just ate your soul. He starts laughing, and we get through it. And I call my wife. I said, I just took second. She's like, oh my gosh. And so they told me that first he looked like he was hurting a little bit, which go figure. And I'm like, all right, I don't know if it's possible. He's like 20 or 30 minutes ahead of me. So I just start pushing. And we still had like 12 miles to go. And I'm like mile 68, and I'm running 10s. And Ryan, he comes up behind me, and he's like, talk about the Grim Reaper, huh? And I look behind me, and I'm like, Ryan, what the hell, dude? And I was like, you're coming up. And he's like, my legs woke up. And I was like, I guess so. And I said, don't let me catch you. And he says, don't worry, you won't. And I'm like, this fucking guy. I was like, let's go. And I said, that's what I like to hear. And I was bummed. And I called my wife, and I'm like, I just lost second. And I said, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try so hard. And I'm running, and I still have to take some walk breaks because I'm just beat. This is like a moderate section. There's not really that many massive hills, but you do go into some jungle looking dips. And then she calls me, and she's like, I see him just come out on this runway, which is like, it's before the stairs. And I said, I know, I'm right behind him. She's like, oh, you are right there. And I was like 100 meters ahead or behind. And I'm like jogging, trying to catch up to him. And Sean, he's driving on the road, and he's like, Alec, he's like, are you good? Or are you going to be fucking crazy? And I was like, I'm going to try, Sean. And I'm running, and we get to those stairs, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with that stair section or have heard of it. It's 600 stairs, I think. I think it's like 600 stairs up that waterfall, and I couldn't lift my legs. Like, it was like, I just couldn't lift them. I just see him kind of like power hiking up, and I'm watching him go up, and I'm just trying. I would get to the next landing, and I would just lay my head on the wood, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I kept pushing up, and there's also like 100 tourists on these stairs too. So I'm like navigating these people. People will not move out of the way. And I get up to the top, and I am like, it's like I just did like a 6-hour stair session or something. And then it's a downhill road, really pounding the legs. And I'm sure you guys know this too, but when you're running downhill, that's worse than uphill. It's like shocking your quads. And it was like pins and needles. And I get down on that road section, and then there's a really technical downhill. One of the cameramen, Scott, he's got this swivel camera, and he starts videoing me, and I was like, hey, thanks for the video. And I was like, I'll see you later. He's like, oh, no, I got to get down too. So he videoed me the whole time down, and he's running through this technical trail while holding this camera. And I'm like, dude, you're awesome. Like, how are you doing this? I'm like whining because I'm hurting so bad, and I'm pushing, and he ended up finishing like 3.5 minutes ahead of me. It was super close. But Anthony finished 45 minutes ahead of us. So he was absolutely cruising. He did like a 12:45. Just an incredible performance. Like that has to be one of the fastest time in years. I think they said that was Ultra Run Mag said it was the course record for the 74-mile course. Because it used to be like a little altered course.
Mm-hmm.
But kudos to him. When I got done, since you guys said I could cuss, I get done, and I was like, fuck you. I went over there, and I shook his and Ryan's hands, and I was like, you guys are freaking awesome. I was like, you crushed me out there. And I tell you what, I fought for that third place for 74 damn miles, and I'd never had a chase like that in my life. Just stressed all day, and it was awesome. I mean, that was an incredible day. I finished, and I couldn't talk for like the first minute. I'm just dead, just leaning over, and it was cool. And then Sean and Deanna were there, and I really like them too. I think they're awesome people, and they were keeping up to date with me all day. And I held a stick for 50 miles, which they made fun of me for. They said I had like a Gandalf stick because everybody had these. Everybody had these poles. And I'd never trained with poles, and I'm like, damn it, I want to get a stick. So I got a stick at like mile 20, and I'm like using it to get up these hills. Then it became And Sean gives this speech of what the railroad spike means, that it's a burden everybody carries and it has no purpose, but everybody carries a burden. And then like that stick became my best friend all day because that's all I had. And I was going to like throw it away at 60 and I just like looked at it and I'm like, no, you're coming to the finish with me. And I didn't even use it most of the day, but it was like a good 4 foot long.
You didn't even need the railroad spike.
I wanted to bring it home, but it was too big for my suitcase. So my wife took a video of me at our little lodge, and I made a video of like giving my goodbyes, and I threw it back in the Georgia woods. So
That is cool.
it was fun.
I mean, congratulations, man.
Yeah.
That's not only a great ran race,
Yeah.
but to hold on and suffer the way you did and just keep pushing, that's hard to do. And especially like looking at those stairs and those stairs, they are a beast. And to be in that much pain trying to get up them, it's not pleasant.
Yeah, no.
But you did it and you held on. And I mean, that's something you take away. You take just a little bit away from that every time when you do that confidence boost, that little nugget of like, okay, I suffered through that, and you're going to be fitter the next time you run it, hopefully. So like, you're taking that away, which is good.
You talked about the luxuries before too, is the one thing that is the best luxury I've ever had is this makes me cry no matter what, is I love Pink Floyd. And when I listen to Pink, I will wait in a race and I'll start listening, and it is so different to me. And I was listening to the Animals album going up those stairs, and it was just, I was going through everything in my entire life trying to get up those. And I hold that off, until I need it. And it's my savior sometimes.
Hey man, just something small to distract you, like sometimes a big thing doesn't mean, and people just don't really understand that until you do something like this, where you're doing a long race and you're like, everything just feels awful. And if you can just get a small distraction, it's a game changer.
It really is. Yeah.
Well, Alec,
absolutely.
We'll transition a little bit and do some questions, man. Thank you for the stories. It's been fun chatting. I want to ask you a question that we ask every listener on this podcast, and that is, why do you run? When your legs are on fire and everything's bad and you're walking at mile 35 and throwing up everything you've ate, I mean, what keeps you going? Why do you do it?
It's never been because of exercise. It's honestly never been anything really focused because I want to be healthier. I just think it feels so innate. Like something just feels like running is amazing and it just feels good, even though it hurts in the moment sometimes. What I said earlier, I am in control. I can put myself in the pain. The people that have diseases or disabilities or, whatever, that's something that they didn't bring on themselves most of the time. And I love to be in control of my own pain as much as I can. And on top of that, it is amazing to be able to do something for yourself like this. And I would have never thought I could have got to something this far, ever. Even when I reran that first 4.5 miles, I was just like, wow, I did that, and I did my 3 or 4 mile runs in the Marine Corps, or long hikes, whatever, but like doing it on my own at my own fruition, that's my why. I really found something that I can do and I can learn to get better at, and it's just cool. It's something awesome, and it's really not a definite reason. There's always different reasons coming up, but it ends up being just something that I really enjoy, and I look forward to doing it after work every day. I'm an after work runner. I don't have kids, so I'll plan my routes while I'm at work. I'll text buddies, hey, you want to run today? I have a couple friends I have routine running groups with, and I just look forward to it because that is my enjoyment. And my wife knows I love running. She's like, that's your thing, and I have a whole room that's running. I've never been attached to something like this in my entire life. The only close second is I played trumpet for a long time, but I never felt it at this intensity ever. So yeah, that's my why.
It's a hobby that turns into a piece of who you are.
Yep.
Like it becomes who you are and helps you to not only find adventure, but also to work through issues, to find ways to help be a better human, and that's the thing. It's like getting to run. You can work so many problems out, and you can work out problems with yourself. You can, you can calm down and be rational. Like if you're upset, it truly does become a piece of who you are. So I totally understand where you were at when you were talking about your heart problem and you thought you were not going to be able to run. Like to have something taken from you that has become a part of who you are, it is the hardest thing in the world to deal with. And it's really hard to get over that. Glad that's not the case for you, but through that time, like I understand how scary that was, because I mean, that's something that is who you are.
Literally my identity was stolen.
And to have that ripped out of you it's a big, that's a whole life change. No,
And a lot of people will be like, I don't want to run because I can't breathe. I'm like, well, yeah, that's the first couple months. Like, I get it. You can't breathe at all. You always hear, we get a lot of hate from weightlifters, even though we don't hate on them, which is so funny. And they're like, you're just skinny leg run, whatever. But until you do it routinely, and it's hard to explain. You just like it, a lot of people don't really do it for fitness because you can do so many other things. If it was just for cardio fitness, they'd be on an elliptical every day or something. But there's something different. And there's a saying I like a lot that I just made it up, but it's running is the best way to explore the world, urban and rural, in the best way possible, and it's on foot. And just to see neighborhoods, woods, anything you're at, you don't get to see that stuff when you're driving or you're flying or whatever. But to run down the street and see the guy sitting on his porch, you just wave to him, or you see the neighbor's dog. That's the stuff that we really don't appreciate enough. And then we realize, oh my gosh, everybody has their own lives out there. And running allows us to just get back connected with the world. Or you run in the woods and, hey, what's up, squirrel? And it's like we are back to our nature. And I think we were hunter and gatherers. I know that's a lot of debate, but there is something that we were meant to run. Like I feel that. I feel that our bodies were set up to run, and somehow it works. I think we've kind of genetically pushed ourselves out of it a little bit because we've had sedentary lives, but we can get back, and I feel that.
There's definitely a large movement now.
Yeah.
You could see it, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mr. Williams, we will turn it over to you.
We got a couple questions here for you, then some normal questions. The first one is, how do you come up with your stylish race outfits?
Chicken leg.
I know, right? I will sometimes just think of something very bright and colorful. Usually it's nothing to do with the actual race. If it's going to be a really hot day, I try to wear a sunny day, I try to wear light colors, but I just like really crazy clothing. You've probably seen some of my pictures. It's goofy, and this race, Georgia, I just wore a pepper tights with a Lilo and Stitch collared shirt and a pink hat and blue shoes. So it's fun. And I've said this before, is I really feel like running just lets you express yourself and be weird. Now, there's no rules to the world. I mean, there really isn't. There's no rules. There's moral rules, but not with this stuff. So you can just wear whatever the heck you want. Yeah.
That is that I've always seen between road running and trail running. I mean, the community's awesome, like when it comes together. But if you show up wearing that at a road race, people are like, who's this guy? You show up at a trail race, there is no judgment because there are 12 other people that are dressed completely opposite of you. Someone may be wearing we just had Michael Wardian on here, and he literally was talking about, he has the American record. He ran a marathon, I think it was a marathon, in an Elvis costume and a Spider-Man costume. So he holds two records. That's just kind of cool. But like to show up at a trail race, people wear all kinds of crazy stuff, and that is so fun. And there is no judgment.
I totally agree. And people will think you're fruity or whatever. And who cares? Who cares? Like, go home and feel stressed out because I wore something. Whatever. And they literally have Cupid's 5Ks. They have people running naked. What's the difference?
You probably inspired 5 people to go home and buy spicy pepper shorts, so it's all good.
Yeah, hey, be
When I saw
yourself.
them, I was like, I wonder where are those from? Because I never saw these before, but they were chicken legs. All right, the
Hey,
next
I
one.
have this. Speaking of pepper, I got it. My first tattoo is a ghost
That's
pepper.
awesome. Why ghost pepper?
I got that when I was in the Marine Corps back in 2017. I am a spicy food fanatic. I eat a lot of spicy foods. I go through about a gallon of Tabasco a year, and I buy it by the gallon glass jug. I love it on everything, and it doesn't cause ulcers, believe it or not, because that was something I was worried about back then. But I love spicy foods. I have my whole life. When I was growing up, I didn't eat a lot of sweets. My mom, we'd go in the fridge and she would grab me pepperoncinis or something spicy, something savory, and that's just how I grew up eating stuff.
Cool. You was training your stomach as a kid. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's right. I knew.
How are the Ohio winters while running?
Sometimes they suck, and I think that I'm just a wimp. You know,
You were
they
not.
can get pretty. Well,
We hate them
I
down here.
just like I bitch all during the winter because I'm just like I hate this, you know. But I do try to make it as fun as possible just to get through it. And something I've tried to do in years past, and I just broke my record this year, was I do a shirtless mile at the coldest day. And this year got to -8, and I did a mile around my neighborhood. I had double socks, triple underwear, gloves with socks over my hands, and then double beanie, but everything else, nothing, you know, and shorts, obviously. But I ran around my neighborhood, and it was freezing cold. But that's what makes it fun. And I took a video of myself, and my beard turned white over that 7 minutes, just completely froze. So the winters do suck. Some years are pretty mild. I thrive in the heat. I'm just not a cold runner. You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in Okinawa, and it was like 90 all year, and I liked it.
I will agree with you.
Yeah.
I'll take heat over cold any day.
Yeah, I don't like to be out there hurting my face, you know, and it's dark at like 5 p.m. and it's just gloomy all the time, you know?
Yep.
Bring summer.
Yeah, definitely. All right, these are a few stock questions here. What has been your favorite low-key race?
Low-key race. I actually have a race coming up this weekend that I've done. I think this is my 7th time, the longest race I've done. Well, the longest race I've done is the Turkey Trot in Dover, Ohio. But this race, this weekend, is called the Run for Home, and it's a 10K on Saturday and a half on Sunday, and it's the hometown I grew up in, and I just love doing it. They're just 2 great races, and all road. And I actually passed by my mom's house on the half marathon, and she always hands me sweet tea, and it's just a really cool little event.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's awesome.
All right. If you could pick one aid station food for the entire race, what would it be?
Watermelon. That stuff hits the spot. So I ate fruit. I experimented 2 years ago. I was only going to eat fruit for all my ultras, and it worked great until you realize there's a lot of fiber, and you're sitting all the time, you know, but
Yep.
my first Mohican, I think I figured out 32 slices of watermelon in like 6 bananas, and it's clean energy, you know, it's really good sugars, but watermelon hits the spot. It's so refreshing.
Fiber hits the spot.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
What'd you say?
So that fiber definitely hits the spot too.
Yeah, it does. Having something hot like a soup though is solid. Like that's a hot ramen. Oh, that hits the spot at night.
Yeah, at night that's so good.
Yeah.
Well, that goes along with my next question. Would you rather have a sweet or a salty snack during the run?
I'm already taking in so much sugary stuff, and a salty snack makes you feel like you're at home and actually eating a meal for once. Yeah. Grilled cheese hits the freaking spot, you know.
Yeah.
Some of the races I've been to, they'll have trays of bacon, and good God, is bacon so good. So salty stuff is awesome.
Oh yeah, grilled cheeses, bacon, man, in a long race, that stuff's so good,
Yep.
especially on a cold night.
Yeah. What has been your longest distance so far?
It was 116, and that was at Bob's in 23. That race we're talking about, Bob's Big Timber. And I was like damaged to the core. My buddy Tommy and my wife Sam crewed me for that, and he just kept pushing me out loop after loop. And I was like, Tommy, I'm stopping because I'm going to die. And I still ran in like that last part, and he's like, I told him that, and he's like, all right, you got 5 minutes. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing anymore. And Tommy and my wife, Tommy, I call my brother, and my wife, is awesome. They do so much for me. They are like my number one crew, and they have pushed me to some crazy freaking heights. They virtually pace me in all my races.
Well, dude, that is special to have your partner believe in you and support you and crew you that much. Like that's an amazing thing. That's awesome.
Yep. My last question is, if you could pick one race, what would be your dream race to do that you haven't done?
I don't know. I am not sure. I think I want to do 100 over in like Asia. Like I don't have like a specific race, but as I've gotten into it more, I'm like, we're only in the US. There's got to be some like really cool races overseas. And I've seen some, I mean, there's like UTMB and stuff like that. But I think in Asia, there's got to be some cool gems out there. But there's no like smoking gun races in my mind. Obviously, everybody wants to do Western states, and so do I. But I want to be like super, super ready when I do. But yeah, in Asia, 100 would be super, or like Asia UK, whatever they call it, the non-freedom units, But yeah, there's something over in Asia would be cool. Because I was in Japan for 2 years, and I love Japanese culture. I think it's awesome. They have the Mount Fuji 100. Like, that would be super cool. I've been up Mount Fuji before, and it's beautiful, freaking cool. So that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be.
Yeah. That's a good bucket list race. That's a good one.
Yeah. That would be cool. Got to get more PTO and money, baby.
So, Alec, man, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Do you have any questions for us?
How long you been running?
So I was like you. I did not like to run at all. Went through a divorce and started running in 2015. And when I say running, I ran a mile every day.
Oh, wow.
Did a couple half marathons in like 2016, and then just signed up for a 50K in 2017 and made every possible wrong error you could make over the next 3 years. And then it all started coming together about the time COVID happens. It was, I think I finally started actually, being really competitive in like 2023 was when things really started clicking. Then went into Rhabdo in 2024, or was that 20? No, hang on. It was when everything was clicking. Yeah. 2023, I went in January. I had Rhabdo. Yeah. I'd done a bunch of hundreds back to back to back to back, and kidneys about shut down. Went into renal failure in January, and took a while to come back. And then 2024 was like the first year I had ran without a lot of issues, so it was good. Took a long time to recover from that, even though I did Ball State. In 2024 somehow.
Oh, no way. Cool.
Or 2023. So I did that the year that I had. Yeah, we all did it together, and it was fun. Yeah, just a lot of trial and error. I wish that I would have done a lot more research, or at least got a coach back then. I got a coach now, but man, a lot of mine was just trial and error. I didn't look anything up. I didn't care. I'd sign up for a race and then figure out, this race is road and trail. Like I was that guy. Like, there we go. I do a little bit more research now, but sometimes I try to get too stressed about it.
Yeah. Hey, look, us men, we go to IKEA, we get the furniture set, we just try to put that shit together. We don't even worry.
I pull the instructions out when I realize it's not starting.
That's funny.
Well, I started running in high school. I ran track and cross country and played basketball, baseball, did everything.
Oh, wow.
After I graduated, I ran just a little bit. And then I quit. And then these guys put a sign at the gym where I was working out at. It said 6 hour and a 5K. I was like, I could do that. That's no problem. I could do that. And so like COVID happened and they had to cancel it. And they put on a local 10K. I came out and ran it and won it. And then
oh, wow.
I think August, the race happened. Got second in the 5K, and then that 6 hour really like hit. And so like the first 3 laps I was doing great, and then it went to like full body cramps, and then you're walking for hours. I'm like,
what's that word you were saying, Alec? Broke off? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Broke off at 3 hours in.
Oh yeah.
So it was a 6 hour event around a track?
No,
it's around the lake. Yeah. So it's actually one of our bigger events now. Yeah. It's called Fort Frenzy. And we do a 3, 6, 12, and 24 hour now.
Yeah.
And we also have a ruck option. But yeah, it's a 3.5 mile loop with 400 feet elevation gain in August.
Oh, God.
It is 90 plus degrees in Tennessee with the humidity. So it's rough, but yeah, it broke Matt and also woke Matt up. He got hooked real quick.
After that, it was signing up for everything. Like they put on a few other races that I went and did. And then that was 2020, 2021. It was a lot more stuff. First marathon, all that. And then it led to hundreds, led to Vol State. And now we're just nonstop.
The addiction keeps growing, baby.
Yep.
Well, one question too with that is, if you could no longer run, what do you think you would do?
This?
Race
directing and podcasting.
I would lift.
That's cool. You would lift?
And race direct. But yeah, my hobby would have to be lifting because I lifted for years before I was a runner. So that was one of the things. Like my brother was a big into lifting. Like he was the one who got me hooked. So I lifted all through. I was the smallest guy ever in high school, man. Like I graduated and weighed like 100. And people saw me like a year later after I graduated high school in college, and they were like, what happened to you? I'm like, I started lifting weights. And it's so I did that for years. And I think that's one of the things that helped me so much with like not getting injured a lot with endurance running. It was just like I'd already worked on the strength piece and building the muscle. So I think that helped me a lot when I first got into ultra running with not having crazy injuries.
Yeah. But that's why I was coming off from lifting a lot, but right before I started running. And I'd got up to like almost 200 pounds. And I'm like, I'm like 5'6". So 200 pounds, I was like just
Matt's got this chair pumped up. He's not really that tall. We got his high.
And like I played basketball in these adult leagues as well. And then once the league was coming back, I go to try to run. Dude, I couldn't move. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. Like I love basketball too much. And so then I started running, and then that's when I saw that flyer at the gym. So I think I lost probably, I was like 196, and now I'm like 150.
It's almost a wake up call when you're like, damn, I can't even run a mile. You're like, what? Who the hell am I? And I think that does really kind of hits a lot of people's ego. I think that if you lift weights, you should be able to run a damn mile.
Oh yeah, I was dying. Like it took me like 3 weeks to even be able to run 3 miles. Like I was like just jogging a mile every day trying to get back. I'm like, I used to do this stuff in high school and I was flying. Now I'm like, it was awful.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes to think about like when you weren't a runner.
Yeah.
Like the first few times you really got into it, you're like, because I remember when I tried to start running, I was like, I don't get it. Like my first couple of runs, I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand. But then like a year later, I'm like, I got to run, and it was just a different feeling.
That's something I've told my friends that I miss sometimes is that naivety. Like just not knowing anything, just doing it. And we learn, but sometimes it would just be nice to just not know and just have that freshness mind. Like, oh, I got to take in this much an hour and this, and I have to have my watch. And, sometimes it would just be great to just be disconnected again. I miss that sometimes.
I always compare it sometimes. Like I laugh with my fiance and I'll compare it to, you ever seen the movie Tin Cup?
No.
Okay. So it's an older movie. It's Kevin Costner, and he's like this famous golf player, and it's a really funny movie, but his swing gets off. So he's like competing in, this PGA Tour or whatever, and his swing is off. He can't hit the ball. They call it the shanks. But he buys every gadget known to man trying to fix his swing. So he's like wearing this stuff on his hat and his arms, and it's like, and I always make that joke when I walk out sometimes, because I got my heart rate monitor on, I got my electrolyte sweat thing on, I've got my shoe pod, and I'm just like, I feel like Tin Cup right now, like I'm wearing.
And like every single thing is just giving you a little bit more edge, but then you're like, dang, I mean, where is the spirit of running sometimes, Like my chest strap, I've worn my chest strap for probably 4 years straight. Like I wear it every single run, and sometimes I'm just like, man, what's it like to not wear it,
I know, it's so funny. I get so into data but I don't get into like the course at all.
Yeah, right.
I'm like looking at my numbers and putting everything together, and I'm like, I don't even read the course description.
All the thinking, this is the same way when I was a musician, is you put all the work into training so that when you do the performance, your body just does what it needs, or your mind just does what it needs. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. That let all the thinking kind of go out of the window when you do your race. Obviously hit your needs, but just let your body do what you've trained for. You've thought for a whole year leading up to that race. Now it's time to just do what you do best, and that's run.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Alec, that was a really good question, by the way. So any last questions?
No, I'm just very happy that you guys had me come on, and happy you reached out to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you'll be on more podcasts very soon. You're making a name for yourself. You're doing really well, and you got a bright future in the sport, man. Just give yourself some recovery time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's something my taper has been learning. I've been learning more. And biking I've picked up a lot. I think it's just accumulation of zone 2. And now I'm trying to do about 40 miles a week on the bike, and it's just I'll go in the morning and do 7 or 8 miles on the Peloton at the gym. And I would like to nip it in the butt for injury prevention before it gets there. But I've had injuries over the years. Nothing catastrophic, but things that I'm like, man, my Achilles really hurts, or this hurts, and I'm young, so we'll see how it goes. I'm 28.
That's smart. Doing the cross training like you are, it'll help. I mean, that's definitely a different impact and a little lower impact, but also just, not always running, making that same impact. I think it's good.
Right. Yeah, I give you guys a lot of kudos for the ones that like lifting weights, because I don't do any strength training, and I want to, and it's my own fault. I just don't like doing it. And it's just so boring. And just like how everybody thinks about stretching, it's just like, dude, I don't want to do this. And I know strength training has its definite place in running. I've neglected it for a very long time.
Well, luckily you're in your 20s. You don't have to worry about it too much yet.
Right. Well, I'm going to retire when I'm 30, son.
Retire at 30, come back at 40.
Yeah.
Well, Alec, man, it has absolutely been a pleasure. I have enjoyed the stories, enjoyed chatting with you, man. You've definitely kept us entertained, and man, we wish you the best. We'll definitely have you back on here. We'll get you back on here sometime next year and get an update from you. But we wish you the best, and for anything we can do for you, please reach out. But we'll all be following along with you.
Heck yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Yep. And Alec, if you don't care, just hang on for just a second, and we'll talk to you after we close the podcast. But we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.